Hi, Writing 100 students. I hope you guys are doing well. And I'm so happy that I'm able to record now. I feel a ton better. Um, and so I feel like I can actually start going back into the work. So, Writing 100 students, when did we leave off the last time? We left off with the body paragraph. By the way, I apologize if you're hearing birds. I have birds in my house, so they are busy. Whenever I talk, they they want to also talk. Anyway, so we are in the middle of the argumentative essay, okay? And basically, for the argumentative essay, the last thing I asked you guys to do was to look at the body paragraph one, which is going to be the same as body paragraph two, right? You have your introduction, which has the hook, the bridge, and the thesis. Then you have your body paragraph one, which you're going to use the peel method, which is point, evidence, explain, link. Okay? That's important. All right. All right. So, I'm going to share my screen with you. All right. And we are going to look at the counter argument for today, which is exactly the last parts. Okay. You should be able to see my screen right now. Yeah. So, which is the counter argument. So let's just quickly do a recap. Okay. Sorry. I apologize for that. It's the birds. Okay. Anyway, so let's do a quick recap of the argumentative essay. By the way, thank you to all of the students that actually submitted all parts. This next 2 days, I'm literally sitting down and looking and checking everything. So please follow the Google Forms. If you haven't done them, honestly, but at this point, I don't know how else to help you because if you do those steps, you are literally helping yourself to put the essay together. Okay. So the first step we talked about, we said you're going to start with the introduction, which is what we did at the beginning. We said that the introductory paragraph has the hook, it has the hook, the bridge, and the thesis. And your thesis needs to clearly state, okay, what is your argument and two reasons, two predictors, all right? Then we talked about body paragraph one. And I said for body paragraphs one and two, you use the peel method. You point by telling us what is the first predictor, the first reasoning. You show evidence through the sources that you had to go look for. You explain it, and then you link it. Okay? You do that for body paragraph 2 and 3. Right. Now, let's go to the counter argument. There's one more paragraph. So once you've done your introduction, you've done your body paragraph 1, reason 1. Body paragraph 2, reason 2. Then you have your counter argument. So what is a counter argument? So basically a counter argument is you acknowledging the opposition to your argument. It addresses the other side who makes the argument stronger. It shows how you have thought critically about the issue, okay? So what is a counter argument? Acknowledging the opposite view. What do critics or skeptics argue, okay? So, for example, you start the sentence by saying, you know what, some argue that eels actually don't reproduce because it's never really been observed. And though people may have believed it because we did not have the technology or the science of today. However, then you go in there. However, it's very clear that not only do eels reproduce because we can see their eggs, but we also know where they are reproducing because we've seen evidence of they spawn in a certain area in the sea. Okay? So you are basically saying what other people are thinking, and then you refute it. Refute means, and then you bring people back and say, but this is the evidence. And that's why you need to have your sources because that's your evidence, isn't it? Okay. So that's the counter argument. What will it look like? This is an example of a counter argument. Look at the beginning. How do we start? It says there, some sources argue that we still do not know where eels come from because no one has seen them reproduce. Okay? This is what your opposition say. You can say some sources argue, some critics argue. People have believed for so many years this, and this. Okay? While this argument highlights the limits of direct human observation, it overlooks the strength of scientific inference. All right? This is the opposite, which is going back to your argument. Okay, so you introduce, while some people believe eels do not reproduce because people have not actually observed it with the physical eye, okay, but the argument highlights that, sorry, the argument overlooks the fact that there's scientific evidence and an inference that we can gather from that, all right? Then you explain that. Then you say, well, science often relies on indirect evidence such as lava distribution, psychological changes, tracking of data to research reliable conclusion. All right, does that make sense? So in that way, you are also acknowledging your opposition. It's one paragraph. Okay, so let's look at that. You have your counter argument says, all right, you rebuttal it by saying, no, this is what science says, okay? And then you explain it. So basically, counter argument, what do people say? You rebuttal it, what your research says, and you explain that research again, okay? So that is one whole paragraph. What to avoid? Okay, common mistakes to avoid. You do not want to have evidence without explanation. You want evidence and you explain, okay? You link your information. Having a counter argument but not refuting, so you're just telling us what other people are saying, but you're not refuting it, that's wrong. You should tell us what people are saying, but then you need to refute, or we call it rebuttal, okay? You need to say, while people are saying this, and yeah, it may appear true, however, and then you explain it again with scientific evidence and explaining it, okay? And also a rebuttal that agrees with the other side. You do not agree with the other side. Let me repeat it again. You do not agree with the other side because remember, this is still your argument. You're still trying to prove something to me. So you do not agree with them. You hold your horses. The only thing that you're doing is you're telling us what they're saying, okay? And yeah, it may appear true, however, and then you refute it. And you say, well, gathered from this data, it is clear not only do eels reproduce, okay, because we can see their eggs in the sea, but we also know exactly where they reproduce, as evidence has shown where those eggs are in particular areas of the sea. So you have to refute it. So your counter argument is not about agreeing, you're not agreeing, you are acknowledging. That's a difference. Agreeing is very different from acknowledging. Acknowledging, you'll say, I see you, I understand you, but I don't have to agree with you, okay? And that is your counter argument. After the counter argument, you have then your conclusion, which we have talked about so much. Listen, I will never grade you down for the conclusion. For me, the biggest thing of your essay is definitely your introduction and your body paragraph and your counter arguments, because that's where the meat and your writing skills need to come in, all right? And then the conclusion is just 2 sentences summarizing the key findings and a call to action, okay? I have created a Google slide where you have to make a counter argument, just so that I can see that you've practiced it. Once you're done with that, then we're starting to write our final essay. The deadline for that essay is also May 6th at 12 midnight. May 6th at 12 midnight, where you have to submit it on Turnitin. And I'm going to give you all of the instructions of what you need so you are ready for it and you can do it. Okay? All right. I will see you guys tomorrow at 11:30 until 12:15 for any questions and follow-ups. All right. Thank you very much and see you soon. And I'm sorry for the birds.